This is the all-new 2021 Ford Bronco Sport, the Big Bend edition. Now, as you can clearly see from an airplane, that says Bronco right up there on the grille. Only thing is, this is not the new Ford Bronco. It is the new Ford Bronco Sport. The question becomes, is this small front-wheel drive based unibody crossover tough enough to justify that badge? Let's find out. You could accuse Ford of pulling a fast one, right? I mean, after all, the new Bronco is eventually coming, and it's gonna be a real body-on-frame SUV that's gonna compete against the granddaddy of all SUVs, the Jeep Wrangler, whereas the Bronco Sport here is based on the Ford Escape, which is a rather forgettable hatchback crossover type thing. Thing is, what Ford did was they actually bothered to endow the Bronco Sport with some off-road prowess. And we'll get to that when we get to the performance section. For now, let's talk competition. Who is this competing against? Primarily the Jeep Compass, the Jeep Cherokee, the Subaru Crosstrek, and the Subaru Forester, as well as the off-road versions of the Toyota RAV4. As far as design goes, there's a lot of it, but remember where the Ford design team had to start, right? Here's an Escape, make it look like a Bronco, and I think they did a pretty good job. Starting with the face, I like it. You know, it's tough but cute. There's a little too much, I don't know, cladding and slotting going on. I wish it was maybe a little cleaner, but maybe for the refresh. Love the headlights, simple and to the point, which is what this SUV should be. This angle right here, it says I'm an off-roader because you've got small wheels and big, fat, chunky tires, and you need that for going up a rock. Then, of course, there's the requisite black plastic cladding. You gotta have that. The sill is really cool. This is where you're gonna bash. This is your, the center point of your breakover angle, so that looks like a cheap, easy to replace part that you're gonna damage on a rock, because it is. I love from the C-pillar back, really cool design, wraps all the way around, and it looks more premium and more expensive than it actually is. In fact, if you said to somebody, you took the badges off and said, this is the new Land Rover Defender Sport, they'd say, oh, it's a pretty cool looking Land Rover. So again, considering where Ford's design team had to start, I think they've done an excellent job with the styling of the Bronco Sport. As impressed as I was with the exterior of the Ford Bronco Sport, I don't want to say underwhelmed, but I'm just kind of whelmed with the interior. It's fine. One thing I'll point out is lots of headroom, especially with a sunroof. There's a lot of headroom. It's sort of a hallmark of an off-roader, lots of headroom. Maybe people like to wear top hats, I don't know. There's nothing else that really screams, hey, let's go play in the dirt. Like, yeah, I guess there's the Bronco badge and there's the GOAT modes button, although here in the Big Bend edition, it's not that many modes. You could argue that the shift knob is kind of chunky, but just kind of. But nothing else really says, hey, let's go off-roading. That said, though, there's lots of storage space, which is great because the competition doesn't have this. There's a big cubby here, it's perfect for sunglasses or a phone. There's a wireless charging port down here for your phone, USB ports. There's a little space right here. It's good. Ergonomically, it's done really well. The focal point, of course, is the nav screen. It's the latest version of Ford Sync. It's big enough, it's bright enough, it works well enough. There's nothing really new or crazy there. One weird miss though, and this drives me crazy, the steering wheel, and specifically what it's made out of. It's the worst feeling part of the car. It's cheap, it's cruddy, and it's just strange because this is textured rubber right here, but so is this, and this feels fine, and this is just kind of just very whatever, and this is what you're gonna touch for the entire time you own the vehicle. So it's just a strange misstep on Ford's part. As far as space goes, very spacious up front. Again, the headroom. The second row, it's okay. It's tight because it's a small vehicle. Behind the rear seats, there's some storage space. However, should you fold them down, and again, because of the roof, there is a ton of space for hauling stuff. When it comes to performance, you have two engines to choose from. You have a 1.5 liter 3-cylinder turbo or a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo. The 3-cylinder engine makes 181 horsepower and 190 pound-feet of torque, whereas the larger 2-liter makes 250 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. Obviously, the 4-cylinder engine is quicker. Either engine is fed through an 8-speed automatic transmission. All-wheel drive is standard. However, there's all-wheel drive with torque vectoring that's available as an option. It doesn't really matter how SUVs, how quick they are in a straight line or how they handle. What matters is how do they do off-road. So kudos to Ford for taking a CUV that looks like an SUV and endowing it with some off-road ability. I actually took a Bronco Sport on what I consider a fairly difficult trail. Call it medium, but it wasn't just a dirt road. We're actually climbing up some loose rocks, which is pretty difficult, and the Bronco Sport here did not miss a beat. In terms of fuel economy, the 3-cylinder engine is gonna net you 26 miles per gallon combined, and the 4-banger will give you 23 mpg overall. As far as safety goes, the IIHS has called it a top safety pick plus for 2021. It does come standard with Ford's Co-Pilot 360, and that's a whole bunch of standard active safety stuff, including the ability to automatically hit the brakes if it thinks it's gonna collide with something in front of it. How much? Well, the cheapest you can get into a Ford Bronco Sport is $28,000. The 3-cylinder Big Bend edition here is $30,000. How does that stack up? This is a little bit more than the Subarus, a little bit less than the Jeeps, and it's about $4,000 less than the Toyota RAV4 Adventure. If there's one thing I want you to know about the 2021 Ford Bronco Sport, it's that it does such a compelling impersonation of a real SUV. Before I'd driven one, I had nothing but doubts. I figured it was just a Ford Escape dressed up for the ball. But we took it off-road, we brought along a Jeep Compass, and in the dirt, the Ford was better in every single way. It's also a pretty good looking vehicle. The interior's decent, it rides and drives good enough, but I want to take a moment and just thank Ford for taking the time and spending the money to almost, and I mean almost worthy of the hallowed Bronco name. To see vehicle rankings and a complete buyer's guide, please visit motortrend.com/cars.